Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days. In today's second video, you're going to have lots of high pressure dominating, so it's going to be a really dry period coming up, but it's also going to be quite cool. And winds going into the east, so we've got some quite interesting weather over the next few days. Certainly in terms of the broad pattern, it's not going to be all that interesting in terms of what's going on because it's high pressure dominated, so it's not going to be lots of wind and rain, anything like that. It's going to be quite a dry 10 days to come. But the temperatures are going to be fairly interesting because they are going a bit cooler, and we've not been able to say that very often since April. So I'll show you the detail in a second. We'll also have a look at what's going on in the Caribbean because we've got a 130-mile-an-hour hurricane tearing its way through the central Caribbean at the moment, so I'll talk about that in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on the page. Just have a browse widgets, click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. You'll be having to pay for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. This second video we've done today, the first video was the October month-ahead forecast. That's quite a complicated one because the models are generally going warmer than average, but we've corrected that, and it's largely based on what's going on right now because the next week, 10 days, do look quite cool. So have a look at the October month-ahead forecast and see what we was predicting for that. Right, let's get on with the second video. And we're going to start off looking at the Caribbean. So this huge, massive red is the radar picture showing Hurricane Matthew tearing through the central part of the Caribbean Ocean. It's bearing down right now on Jamaica and the Dominican Republic. It'll also be heading up towards Cuba later on today. There's some torrential rain in with this, as you can see by the vibrant colours on the radar picture. Also some very strong winds close to the eye of the hurricane. We are getting wind gusts up to 130 miles an hour, so really severe weather in central parts of the Caribbean right now. This is the expected track of Hurricane Matthew from NOAA, and you can see that for Monday it is coming through Jamaica into parts of Haiti as well, and it's going to carry on northward, so that by Tuesday morning it should be heading in towards Cuba. Now beyond that it's going to carry on northward, so it's going to head up towards the Bahamas as you get through into the middle part of the week through Wednesday and into Thursday. Doesn't hit Florida, so if you're off on holiday to Florida, you shouldn't be too impacted, although the east coast of Florida is on the periphery of this hurricane. So whilst it probably won't be a direct hit on Florida, you could well get some quite strong winds, certainly from this, and maybe some thunderstorms as well on that eastern coast of the United States, or southeastern coast of the United States around the middle of the week. Beyond that, it looks like the hurricane's going to carry on northwards and die as it pushes northwards into the cooler waters of the North Atlantic, generally staying off the eastern seaboard of America once again. It doesn't look as though this is going to impact the weather in the UK and Europe. Of course, it's too uncertain really to say, but it won't get caught up in the jet stream at some point and move our way, just as an area of low pressure. But at the moment, certainly up to the weekend anyway, it doesn't look like it's going to have any direct impacts on our weather. But really quite severe weather through the Caribbean over the next few days. We'll be hearing quite a bit, I think, about Hurricane Matthew. We're already hearing quite a bit about it. We'll be hearing more about it over the next few days. Now, in complete contrast to that, close to home, it really is a case of high pressure all the way, and all eyes on the Scandi high, because that's where the high pressure is going to be over the next week to 10 days. Lots of high pressure in over Scandinavia. That's going to turn the winds into the east. And whilst it's not as cold as it would be in the middle of winter, if we're looking at these sort of weather patterns in the middle of winter, we will be looking at some really quite very cold weather, severely cold weather, and the risk of snow, because it's only middle of October, or middle of autumn, early October. We're not looking at anything desperately cold, but I think we will be going a bit cooler than average later on this week. So these are the 500 millibar heights anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top. The GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by a jet stream running above. On these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure and red to high pressure. So that's Hurricane Matthew, by the way, just there. Imminently in the week to 10 day period. It's in the central part of the Atlantic. As I say, it doesn't look like it's going to be directly impacting our weather. In fact, for us, we're under this big red area, so that's a large area of above average heights. That's high pressure dominating across many northern and western parts of Europe through the coming week to 10 days. This leaves us with low pressure underneath. Whenever you get high pressure to the north, you'll tend to get low pressure to the south. It's one of the ways nature sort of balances itself out. So you've got high pressure in one place, you'll tend to get low pressure in another place. So all the low pressure and rain-bearing systems that you would normally expect in a typical autumn coming through northern Europe actually looks like it's pushing through southern Europe. And this leaves us bringing in an easterly flow around this vast area of blocking high pressure, which will be quite cool. That is going to be quite a cool easy flow. Not cold, as you would expect if it was winter, but certainly we're in the cooling time of year now, so it will be fairly chilly easy wind, but we have picking up later on this week. The GFS is very similar. Actually, it's a bit further north with the blocking, so the high pressure is centred further north, up towards the north of Scandinavia, and over towards Iceland as well. Trough of low pressure is to the south again, and the flow, again, it is easterly, coming around that blocking feature that we have sitting to the north and northeast. These are very dry-looking charts, but also quite cool. Have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We can see with the temperatures, first of all, the red line here is the 30-year temperature average. So we can see we're around, or maybe a little bit above average at the moment. So we've got fairly warmish days right now. Quite, excuse me, quite cold nights. Later on this week, you see there is a drop in the temperature taking place around the 6th of October. Start to see those temperatures dipping down. And then we've got very good agreement, really quite shockingly good agreement, for quite a prolonged spell of cooler than average weather. Look at that. We go pretty much through to the end of the ensemble with most of the members of the GFS ensemble trending cooler than average. It's been a very, very long time since we've seen an ensemble chart like that. I think you have to go back to April for the last time we had an extended, by extended I mean more than a week, extended run of cooler than average weather. Now, later on in the ensemble, as ever, there is a lot of scatter, or quite a bit of scatter, so some members of the ensemble do go a little bit warmer than average. But even then, the trend is very much cooler than average. That's indicated by this white line just here. So, quite a cool period coming up if we believe this ensemble through the first half of October. Juxtaposed to that, it looks like you can have a lot of dry weather as well with this high pressure, so hardly any rainfall spikes, certainly up to the second half of the ensemble, and then in the second half of the ensemble, which is the second half of October really, we start to find the rainfall spikes beginning to come back, but even then not with conviction. Just a few members of the ensemble are turning a bit more unsettled. Generally it looks cool and dry, I think, through the first half of October based on that. Now, because we're bringing in an easy flow, you will notice there are very, very slight spikes here with precipitation, and that's just bringing in an easterly flow, and what that flow is doing is probably bringing in a lot of cloud from the east and little bits and pieces of drizzle, maybe light rain. This is an ensemble for London, so it's close to the southeast of the country, where we would probably drag in little bits of drizzle at times off the North Sea. So don't expect it to be universally dry, but once you look at the anomalies, I think it will be a very dry first half to October. Now look at this, it's the temperature anomaly from the 3rd through to the 11th of October, and it's cooler than average, not just for us, many parts of Europe going colder than average as well, particularly so through eastern France, Germany, and then down towards the southeast of Europe. But we are bringing in some cooler than average air for ourselves as well, and I would suspect we'll probably see this trending a little bit colder actually over the next couple of days. It's been a long time, had an exceptionally warm September. It's been a long time since we've looked at these temperature anomaly charts and seen much in the way of blue. But there we go, for the coming week, it does look, from the 3rd to the 11th of October, a little bit cooler than average. Very dry as well. This is the precipitation anomaly from the 3rd to the 11th of October. Look at all that red through the UK and most parts of Northern and Western Europe included. So very dry and quite cool. Looks like it's the way we're going into the first half, anyway, of October. So just have a look at the generic chart then. This is for GFS for Thursday. Now, these are a new version of the charts at weathercentral.de. They are still from Weather Central. They're just an updated and slightly different version, although still very similar. So this is for Thursday, and we're bringing in these easterly winds then, probably dragging quite a lot of cloud off the North Sea and quite cool temperatures as well. We go through to Friday, still in that easterly flow, and that takes us into the weekend as well. It's high pressure over Scandinavia, bringing in this easterly flow. Not a lot going on in terms of the weather, actually. It's probably going to be quite boring in terms of what the weather is actually doing, just a case of cloud and sunny spells. But those temperatures will be on the cool side, I think, as we go into weekend. Next week, dominated by high pressure. We may be hinting at trying to generate a few little troughs around the country early next week, which might enhance the shower risk, particularly to the eastern part of the country close to the North Sea. But still, really, it's this high pressure in over Scandinavia that is the dominating factor. That continues up to day 10. So this takes us to Thursday, 13th of October. And we're still in this easterly flow. Following the isobars back, the air is originating somewhere from eastern Europe, so it's not going to be warm. It's not going to be a heat wave bringing in these easterly winds. If we go a little bit beyond that, it gets even more interesting, because look what happens later on. I should be going this far out, really. This is into the very unreliable time frame of tomorrow, but eventually we start to pick up some retrogression of this high pressure. So there's the high pressure still close to Scandinavia on Saturday 15th of October. But as we go through towards Monday the 17th, look where the high pressure is going now. It's heading up towards Greenland and Iceland. So by the time we get to the very end of the 6 o'clock run of the GFS, Wednesday 19th of October, that high pressure has moved out of Scandinavia. It's set up over Greenland, and we're dropping a trough down into Scandinavia. So the high pressure's retrogressed. It's retrogressed east to west, which is opposed to the normal zonal flow, which is west to east. The high pressure gone from Scandinavia to Greenland, and in its place a trough is sinking down into Scandinavia, which is starting to turn the winds into the north. This is one of the things we look out for in winter, to be setting up a very prolonged cold spell. When you get retrogression, it's a sign that the jet stream and the general circulation of the weather is behaving abnormally, because the normal flow should be west to east. So this is one of the things we watch out for, to tell us that maybe the atmosphere and the climate is behaving a little bit differently this season. That's right at the very extended range of the GFS, so it probably won't come to anything, but we do have to watch what this Scandinavian high is doing in the longer term. East finally, there's high pressure in over Scandinavia on Friday. Winds are in from the east, bringing cool and very cloudy conditions into the UK. That continues through the weekend. Lots of dry weather coming up. Dry weather continues into next week as well. This looks like a bit of an autumn drought, I have to say, because there's going to be many days with no rain across parts of the country in a time that would normally, or a period of the year that would normally be very wet and windy. We go through to day 10, which is 13th of October, and there's the high pressure just sitting right over top of the UK by then. It won't be overly warm, probably pleasant by day, but by night I would think fairly cold, and maybe with mist and fog patches as well. But the main thing would be the dryness, very, very dry conditions with that one. So it's a case of high pressure dominating, but unlike what I had in September, then high pressure did dominate, but it gave us very extensively warm weather. This time it looks like it's going to give us quite cool weather with winds in from the east. So cool and dry the way forward through the first half of September. And then I say it is all eyes on the Scandi high. I've got to see where that high goes when it sink down into southeastern Europe and allow the Atlantic to just return and bring the rain back with it, wet and windy weather back with it for the second half of October, or will it retrogress and finish up over Greenland? If it does, we could have a cold northerly shot in the second half of the month. We'll wait and see. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I've gone quite a long time for today's video. Sorry about that, but quite interesting weather patterns. I wanted to do an in-depth one today. So thanks so much for watching, and see you tomorrow. Bye for now.